We're back at it again with another Battlefront update. It's safe to say that last week's big news didn't land for most people, especially when hearing that BB8 and BB9-E were chosen as heroes over the likes of Hux or Poe, which majority of the community have agreed would have been much more acceptable choices. However, if anything, this created a new discussion within the community on what new heroes DICE should be focusing on introducing into the game, with DICE even responding back to some of the ideas being thrown their way. As always, we'll be covering all of this and more in today's video. And before we get into any of that, but a quick reminder, as if you do like these type of videos, then do remember to give it a like to show your support for not only this update series, but also the content within it. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Starting off with the hot topic on the BB droids, design director Dennis Brandval recently went to Twitter to help clarify on the reasons why DICE chose to go with the BB heroes over Hux or Poe, where he explained, "You know what I'm most excited for? For my oldest son and kids like him who will soon be able to play as their favorite droid hero and lead their team to victory in instant action after watching the new movie. We spent a lot of time entertaining those who, like me, grew up with the prequels and Clone Wars. Now we're turning our focus to a slightly different part of our community. Remember, Star Wars is for everyone. Thanks for all the kind words." So, based on this explanation, it's clear DICE is catering now to the younger demographic by choosing to bring in the BB droids as the newest heroes to the game. Considering Battlefront 2 is a game aimed at all ages, it doesn't surprise me that they wanted to attract more younger players to the game now, especially seeing as Battlefront 2 has already been written off by a lot of older players due to the loot box scandal back in 2017. Now, of course the perception of Battlefront 2 has greatly changed since then. But not entirely, especially when you get articles on IGN of all places still thinking the game is a pay-to-win, or that you even need hero tokens to play as heroes. By carefully choosing to cater to younger players, this is DICE's attempt to try and sell more copies of the game, especially for the holiday season. As I've said in my last video, while I'm not thrilled with the idea of the BB droids, I do want to try them out before bashing them. Because again, who knows, they may be really fun to play as. Obviously they won't be very strong, but that probably won't matter to kids as long as they're having a blast shooting casino coins at Kylo Ren using BB8. In response to Dennis's tweet, Ben Walk also chimed in by saying, "Where would Luke be without R2? Or Kenobi in the Clone Wars for that matter? What about Anakin and 3PO, Poe and BB8, Ezra and Chopper, Lando and L3, Cassian and K2? Droids are a major part of Star Wars." Another interesting fact is that according to Dennis, DICE at one point were considering making Rose and Hux as the new heroes, before of course eventually settling with the droids. And yeah, I'm sure for some of you to hear that must be mind-blowing, but here's what he had to say about it. "One thing that really scared me though was the notion of doing Rose and Hux as blaster heroes, considering neither seems to be overly popular with this community. I feared that would have triggered some evil exec somewhere is forcing them to do this rather than insert favorite prequel character. That would have overshadowed the rest of the announcements. While I expected the droids to trigger some, not a lot of requests for BB9 as some rightfully pointed out, at least I felt comfortable that their gameplay would convince any doubters." So yeah, this piece of news is very interesting. Not surprised in the slightest that Hux was a hero candidate, but to see that DICE considered Rose and not Poe as a hero is a bit strange, especially seeing of course how much more of a boots on the ground role Poe does take in Rise of Skywalker. Not to mention Oscar Isaac wanting Poe as a ground hero in the game as well. However, I do agree with Dennis here, because as bad as the reception was towards the BB droids, it definitely would have been far worse had Rose been chosen instead. Besides, I'm pretty sure we can all agree that BB8 should be more fun to play as than a Rose blaster hero. Although, when challenged by some on why DICE even initially considered Rose over Poe, who many people see as being part of the main trio of the sequel trilogy, which is Rey, Finn, and Poe, just like the trinity of the original trilogy that was Luke, Leia, and Han, Then Dennis had an interesting response to this as well by saying, "You're making up this trio thing. Rose is as much part of the Resistance group as Poe, as BB8, as Phasma. BB8 inspired us the most to make great and fun gameplay." Now, whether Dennis is right on the trio bit here or not is a different story altogether, but again, he seems to be very confident that BB8 will provide some fun and inspiring gameplay. So if that is the case, then I'm definitely interested in checking it out. Of course, as a result of the whole BB droid talk, it has now seen the community start asking on whether DICE should or could venture off into making content for other Star Wars properties, like Jedi Fallen Order or The Mandalorian. Suffice to say, this chatter has grown so much lately, which has forced DICE to promptly respond to it. And while their response shouldn't really be of any surprise, I do feel I have to cover it here so that the most eyes see this, as I myself do keep seeing people ask about heroes being made from Fallen Order and The Mandalorian almost daily within my comments section. So let's run through these responses from DICE. The first regarding the new clone battalion seen in Jedi Fallen Order, which is officially known as the 13th Battalion. These guys have a unique looking armor design which sees a V-shape go across their chest. Now, while their color scheme isn't anything original, I can understand why people would want to see these troops in the game. I mean, who doesn't want to see new clone skins added, especially if there's something brand new to canon? However, despite this being a fairly simple skin design that DICE can whip up in 10 minutes or so of work, don't count on it coming to Battlefront 2 anytime soon, as community manager Ben Walk has stated that DICE have nothing planned to bring them over to the game, stating that because DICE are now focusing on other eras, there won't be any new Clone Battalion skins on the horizon. Without a doubt, an answer that I'm sure not many people will be thrilled to hear. Next, the conversation shifted toward getting the second sister as a playable hero for the dark side. And while this is something that modders have already for the most part achieved, thanks to simply porting over the second sister's 3D assets into Battlefront 2. And now a good portion of the community want to see an official release from DICE for her. This talk of the second sister in Battlefront 2 even went as far as to see Elizabeth Grolin, the actress for the second sister, go on social media and express her own desire to see it happen. But of course, considering a big name actor like Oscar Isaac wanting the same thing for his character, and we all know how DICE reacted to that, then it should be expected that the case of Grelin and the second sister is no different here. Ben Walk actually even went into a little detail explaining why DICE isn't interested in doing any Fallen Order content for Battlefront 2, and why that won't be changing in the near future, where he went on to say, "If we add Jedi Fallen Order content, then we'd have people saying that we're denying requests for something else. We can't, as much as we'd love to, please everyone. Star Wars is a big, big galaxy." When asked if Cal Kestis would ever become a playable hero, Ben did say something rather interesting, which is, "We have a list, he's not on it." So yes, DICE do have a list of heroes they're planning on bringing into the game along with the BB droids, pretty much telling us that the BB droids won't be the last new heroes we see in Battlefront 2, in case you were wondering about that. And of course, I'm confident that both Ahsoka and Ventress are on that list as well, as by now they should be both complete and ready to go. But because of the delays seen in the Rise of Skywalker content, it is very possible that may now affect Ahsoka and Ventress's release, which was unofficially expected to be February to coincide with the release of Season 7 of the Clone Wars. But now I wouldn't be surprised to see them get pushed back to March or April, as in January we're now getting the second half of the Rise of Skywalker content. And then in February, it's looking likely that we're gonna be getting the original trilogy Capital Supremacy, which that itself was pushed back from November. So unfortunately, we've got a bit more waiting to go, but to be fair, that's always been the reality of Battlefront 2. And as long as we've got free content to look forward to, then there's little reason to complain. Oh, and yes, before I forget, when also pressed about whether there would be Mandalorian content in Battlefront 2, Ben answered with, yeah, you guessed it. No current plans, so for sure don't be expecting to see Baby Yoda or the Mando as playable heroes. as DICE haven't even thought about the possibility of doing anything like that. Lastly, we also learned of something very awesome recently from Ben on a particular mode that could have easily been in Battlefront 2. Heck, it was actually planned to be in development, but for reasons unknown to us has since been scrapped. And the mode I'm talking about is, get this, Podracing. Yeah, Podracing was actually going to be a real mode in Battlefront 2. According to Ben, it was a mode that DICE figured was something cool to make. But like many other things on their development roadmap, it got either scrapped or shelved for a later date. Now, there is very sparse information regarding this in detail, and understandably so, as DICE never went far into development on it. However, I do remember the notorious leaker some_info way back in early 2018, I think, telling us that DICE were working on a pod racing mode, which many of us at the time had a hard time believing that was true. I mean, come on, pod racing in Battlefront 2, that just doesn't add up. Especially when you're told about that in early 2018 when there really wasn't that much content coming for Battlefront 2. Although, since that time, data miners like Uninspired Zebra have found some code in the game for the unfinished racer mode, and even tried finishing it off themselves, resulting in some cool racing gameplay and, of course, proving that some_info was telling us the truth. And now with Ben officially confirming this was something DICE actually tried working on, then it just adds another crazy leak to the list of things that some_info was once again right about. And now, knowing all of this, it does beg the question, should DICE return back to finishing this mode? Especially if they see there is a demand for it. So ask yourself this, do you want to see a racer mode in Battlefront 2? Let DICE know in the comment section below, and who knows? It might just be something they revisit someday. But that'll do it for this Battlefront update. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to not only support it, but keep up with Star Wars news, gaming, and canon lore released every week. And consider following me on Twitter and Facebook to never miss out on the latest Star Wars content. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.